Hi, Peter Jones, Chartered Surveyor, author and property investor, and in this short series of videos we're looking at the 12 questions I think every investor should ask themselves when they start in property, and certainly as they go along through their property journey, just to make sure they're still on track and doing the right things. And in the last video we were thinking about what type of property to buy. So the natural question next is, well, where are you going to find those properties? Where are you going to buy them? Now, most people will assume that they're going to invest near home, and that's fair enough. Why not? If you can invest near home, it's going to save you time travelling to find the properties. You may already have local knowledge. If you live in an area, you're already going to have local knowledge. Perhaps you already read the local newspaper, so you'll know where perhaps the new shopping centre is going to be built, or where the new school's going to go in, or where the new roads are going to be, or if any areas have been sort of earmarked for demolition or redevelopment. So you'll have all that, and that could be really useful information which could help you decide where you're going to buy your properties. And of course, if you're thinking of buying properties and managing them yourself, then you'll probably want to be buying nearby so that you can actually get to the properties and do all the stuff. Now, there's another video there, because personally I don't like the idea of managing my own properties, and I always suggest don't manage your own properties, because your time's better spent doing other stuff like finding deals. But if you really feel you need to manage your own properties, then obviously being nearby makes sense. But do we have to buy properties near home? Well, no, we don't. And in fact, it all depends on your strategy anyway, because it may be that your preferred strategy doesn't actually work where you live. So a good example of that could be, I meet investors who want to do buy-to-lets in London, but the yields in London are so low that buy-to-lets are very tricky in a lot of the parts of London. London's a big market, so I don't want to be too sort of general about it, but generally speaking, in large parts of London, buy-to-lets don't really work because the yields are so low. So does that mean that anybody in London can't do buy-to-lets? Well, no, of course it doesn't mean that, but it might mean that they have to do them somewhere else. So, for example, many London investors might buy in the Midlands, or in Manchester, or Liverpool, Leeds, Newcastle, away from home. Is that possible, and can one do that? Yes, well, of course one can. And in this day and age, with the internet, with Google, with Rightmove, with all the other websites and all the apps that we can now get, it can be quite easy, relatively easy anyway, to do rudimentary research about an area online, come up with a short list of areas, and then just go and visit those areas. Even better if you have JV partners, or if you find a deal packager or an agent who will work with you in an area away from home. That can make all things possible. So the key thing is, think about what type of property you need to buy to achieve what you want to achieve. In other words, to be able to undertake the strategy that you want to undertake. Then think about where you're going to buy those properties. Where are those properties actually located? And it's not just necessarily a case of where that type of property is located, but you need the right type of property at the right price to make the figures work. So that's our homework, and that's why we make our money as property investors, because we're prepared to put the effort in to find those areas where it works. Now, I live just outside Nottingham. I invest in Newcastle in the northeast. Now, sometimes people say, why do you do that? Why did I invest in Newcastle and not Nottingham? Well, there's historic reasons why, which I won't go into now, but the reality is I'm actually glad that I did do it away from home, because I know that if I'd invested near a home, I probably would have meddled. I would probably have felt obliged to manage my own properties. I might even have felt obliged to try and do stuff like do the basic repairs, and I cannot do DIY. So for me, there's a lot of advantages having the properties away from me. Ultimately, all I'm interested in is the figures and the income. I'm not in love with property for property's sake, so it doesn't bother me whether they're on my doorstep or 100 miles away or 200 miles away. It's all the same to me. It's just an asset for producing income. So I don't know where you are, and I don't know what your aspirations are, but have a think about what you're trying to achieve. Have a think about what strategies work in your local area. If any of those strategies suit you, great. And if the properties are the right price, even better, pursue a strategy near a home. If you want to pursue a strategy that doesn't work where you live, then find somewhere else to do it, and maybe find a JV partner located in that area who can help you do it. Hope you found that useful. See you in the next video.